Good morning. It's been a long 2 weeks for Israel and for the Jewish people. For those of us who have been brought up to love Israel in their hearts, like I have, and as a child to have watched my family as they accumulated weapons for the state of Israel's survival, and as we supported Israel all our lives. We used to discuss it at the dinner table. Everything was up for grabs at dinner. Dinner was a long, leisurely affair where you could bring up any topic at my family's dinner table. And one thing that galvanized them was politics, and was it good for Israel? I've been to Israel 10 times. As a Jewish woman, I never experienced antisemitism until I worked in Detroit at Ford Motor Company. Not the executives, but certainly there were folks that I had to deal with in the plants, the assembly plants. One in particular, the head of the Dearborn assembly plant, was Egyptian, and he did not like me at all. Imagine, I was 34, a little skinnier, a lot younger than I am today, and I was the expert in paint. And he knew he'd never cleaned up his paint shop. He knew that there was going to be changes made, and he didn't want those changes to occur. So I remember asking him for coveralls and said, look, I'm going to work with you, not against you. This is a company-wide policy. Every assembly plant in America is going to be adapting to the new changes. It didn't matter to him. He finally, after a couple of weeks, he gave me size 44 coveralls. If anyone's seen me in person, you would know that's pretty ludicrous on a petite woman. And in those days, I was probably 100 pounds. I didn't care. I rolled them up, I put them on, and I went to work. Didn't make him a happier camper, not in the least. He said to me one day as I was checking out the paint shop, he said, if you get any closer to those ovens, there's going to be a lot of Jewish dirt in the plant. I was outraged. I didn't really know what to do. I went to my boss, who I really liked a lot and respected, and he said to me, do nothing. He said, you've told me, we know, we won't let it happen again, but do nothing and just go on and do your work. And be nice to him. And I was. And I got everything that I needed to get for Ford Motor Company to be successful. And did I experience more anti-Semitism? Yes. But did I also meet the head of research and development at Ford, who was a really wonderful Jewish person by the name of Julius Harwood? And the head of mechanical engineering was also an Iranian Jew. So I never carried hate in my heart. I never learned to hate people. I know the saying that when you carry hate in your heart, then you prepare to bury two people, one meaning yourself, and the other, the person you hate. Hate is not the way. In my own relationships, I have tried very hard to see the other person and respect them so that we can live in peace and harmony. I've done it with my own family. It's taken years of hard work. Understanding, respect doesn't blossom necessarily overnight. And with countries and with individuals, it takes time. But one thing that's necessary is you have to drop the hatred, the lies that cause the violence. When Hamas said that Israel had bombed that hospital, the world was really too quick to react and blame Israel. That never should have happened. Hamas has lied so many times. Now it looks like maybe 10 people were injured from the parking lot misfire. And why in the world is Hamas continuing to use structures that have people who are injured for their missile launchers? I wonder about the Palestinian people in Gaza. I wonder nobody's ever polled them. Are they happy to die for Hamas? Hamas, who values life so little? I don't know. What I do know is I fear for the Israeli soldiers, and I certainly don't want this invasion to be like Iraq or Afghanistan. I don't want to see any more loss of Jewish life. I don't want to see loss of innocent people's lives either. I understand that they really do have sufficient food, water, and supplies for at least one more day in Gaza. It's not like we're hearing in the news all the time. They're not dying of starvation at this point. They're not dying from lack of water. And you gotta wonder when you read in other sources that some of the rockets that Hamas used, they were made out of water pipes. They said they were old. You gotta wonder, how old were they? Were they pipes that were being used for new construction? What kind of old pipes were they using for their rockets? It is a shame when you value your life and other lives so cheaply that it doesn't matter. We've known for years that the Palestinians in Gaza have been human shields for Hamas. When will they say enough? Well, if they don't say it themselves, the Israelis in the army and in the cabinet and the people of Israel will say it for them. This last atrocity, this last act of barbarism, that was enough. They'll clean out Hamas. They'll clean out the tunnels that little Palestinian children helped build and probably died for. But all that Hamas infrastructure is going. And well, it should. There cannot be peace among people when there is such hatred and such violence and so many lies. Hamas was given billions. They didn't use those billions wisely. They didn't use it to build up the people, to make sure that the people were happy. No, like all authoritarian despots, they used it to wage war, and war is their identity. They must have hated the idea that the Abraham Accords were about to take place. It would have meant that they had no reason to live. So they committed what I'm hoping, and the world is hoping, is their last atrocity. And I think it really will be, because I have faith in my own government, and I have faith in the Israelis and their will to survive. They've gone through so much. And seems to me they'll have to go through more, and we'll bear it. Somehow we'll all get through together. But I am glad, even though the Arab nations have been silent about helping the Gazans or taking the Gazans or the folks from the West Bank, they have not been silent in condemning the atrocities. And I think that the hatred should stop around the world. We all have to live together. Globalization is not a once and done deal. We have mega problems to solve. This is a world in change. This is a world going through turmoil. And when it happens, you can't just explode and let your impulses and your emotions take hold of you. You have to think about, how are we going to survive in the long term? We know we got to get off fossil fuels. They're having earthquakes, too many, in the Middle East. They're getting floods. We're seeing a hurricane season speeding up in the Northeast and in Mexico. We're seeing the fires. Those are real threats. We don't need war to exacerbate all of the problems that we have created. Luckily, there are some clear-headed folks, people who care about survival and are not nihilistic, who care about the fate of Israel, the fate of Ukraine, and also of the global community. This is not a time to worry about what group you hate because you don't really understand the group. It's a time for all of us to look into our hearts and say, when you walk down the streets, say, of New York, can you actually really hate the guy who's on a halal stand? Or anyone? I don't hate them. I say hello to everyone. Every people on earth have suffered. And we're all going to suffer more. And it'll be up to everyone's ingenuity and genius to get us out of the mess that we've created with wars and global warming. In Israel, they are really the startup nation. They're devoting an entire sector of their economy to making food that tastes like real food that we're used to, cloned out of the proteins that we're used to tasting, and giving us meat. Eventually, that's what's really going to happen. Unless we can get our beef off of alfalfa and corn and wheat and whatever else we're feeding them that produces methane gas and get them onto seaweed and other products, we got a real problem with meat production in this world. We've got a real problem with crop production and making seeds that grow in the climates that we're now producing. Not the climates that we were used to, but what we have now. So we can't afford not to be realists, not to look at the dangers around us, but also to look at the good in people. Because at the end of the day, I have always believed that there are 10 good people for every one who might be evil or barbaric. And we got to look to recognize those people who are not good people and not follow them. And I'm pleased that I see unity amongst those of us who want to survive and survive well. And so I have only a few words left to say. To have peace, to get to a real peace, there will have to be some kind of interim government in Gaza, and the Israelis know it. And just like we did after World War II, when we occupied Germany and we occupied Japan, we made sure that the institutions were in place so that people could survive and thrive once again. I know because I remember that it was Ford Motor Company that built the original plants in Germany and in Japan. That was my first job. So if everyone wonders why do I always talk about them, it was one of the best experiences I've ever had, and I will never forget it. It was the most exciting job. So I love building. I love seeing things built. And boy, when you're an assembly plant, you watch those cars go from the scrap metal to off the line and driven away. It's miraculous. There's nothing like manufacturing. And we're going to be doing a lot of it, folks. So I think there's reasons always to be hopeful. And if you're wondering why my voice sounds this way, well, I'm living life and I'm out there. And though I may wear a mask, others don't. And unfortunately, someone I knew came down with a severe cough. Guess what? I got it. So I think it's at the tail end. And that's the reason for the little croakiness that you hear. But I'm on the mend. And I'm hoping our world will be too. We can do anything when we put our minds to it. So, God bless you and have a good day.